I was very angry. I was actually angry at my body. I didn't say anything to my poor oncologist, but I happened to pick up my phone call while I was in the elevator in Vegas. And he was like, hey, can you come in for a PET scan the next week? I said, oh, actually, I can. I'm actually in Vegas. Vegas? Like, what? What are you doing? Why are you there? And he's like, there's a lot of people there. And he's like, yes. Okay, well, just be careful. I'm like, I'm going to hug Zion tomorrow.
Please, cancer.
Anger's really masking fear. Fear of not being here. It's a fear of not being here for my children. Listen, mommy's gonna kick it like Moira from Schitt's Creek. We're gonna have a wall of wigs. You pick out the wig, you name the wig. They love the pink. It was curly pink. I wore it when I rang my bell.
You kick cancer's ass by
Controlling the narrative.
Enjoying today's episode? Click subscribe. You'll get the stories, science, and strategies to help you and everyone you care about kick cancer's ass.
Today on Kicking Cancer's Ass, you're going to meet someone who hiked Zion National Park 2 weeks after finishing chemo. Her story isn't about surviving cancer. It's about moving through it with power and grace. If you've ever wondered whether strength and joy are still possible in the middle of treatment, this conversation is going to show you how to do that. I want to welcome Larissa Noto of the Lovely Little Lotus to Kicking Cancer's Ass.
Hi.
Welcome. Hi. All right. Well, let's jump into it. You finished chemo and 2 weeks later, you're hiking mountains. What made you decide to do that instead of rest and recover?
I feel like I was resting and recovering through the time period of getting the treatments. I was ready to go. I was like, let's do that.
Free Larissa.
Exactly. Literally. That's what I felt like. I was like, I'm out. And plus, I love traveling, and I felt like that time of getting active chemotherapy treatments sort of prohibited a lot of that because of germs. And it was the height of the cold and the flu season when I started in December of last year. And I was like, I'm ready. Let's just go. Let's get out.
That's awesome. Zion is one of my favorite of the national parks. It's so beautiful.
That was my first time there.
Yeah. That's okay. It's gorgeous there.
It was gorgeous.
So, what was going through your mind? Everyone else is staying home. You'd been staying home. How'd you choose Zion National Park? How did this all come together?
Oh, it's sort of humorous. So we go away every year during spring break with my family, which is my husband and my 3 children. And it's usually wrapping around Easter. So we just celebrate somewhere. We change our location every year, ever since they were little. And during the pandemic, I became friends with a Peloton moms group through my sister-in-law, who, shout out to my sister-in-law, Nikki, for bringing me in. She brought me into the moms group. She's like, you're going to love this group. And I was like, well, I mean, I don't know any of these people, but it was the pandemic and nobody knew anybody anyway. And these women are brilliant. They're all extremely accomplished, go-getters. Like, they're just amazing human beings, but they're also just very real humans, which is interesting for a group of like 20 plus women in a forum online. And they started traveling once a year, every year, I believe, once things opened up. And I did not go on the first trip. That was Charleston, South Carolina. But my sister-in-law was like, you have to join this group, and we go away every year. And I was like, cool, let's do it. So I started going away with them every single year. My husband was like, let's go to Oregon for spring break. Well, the dates of our trip were the very next week, and it's began in Vegas. I'm not kidding. And Zion, we were going to drive from Vegas to Zion. So my oncologist, I didn't say anything to my poor oncologist, who's amazing, but I happened to pick up my phone call while I was in the elevator in Vegas. And he goes like, hey, can you come in for a PET scan the next week to see if everything works?
A small thing.
And he was like, I just said, oh, actually, I can. I'm actually in Vegas. And his entire voice, Vegas, like, what? What are you doing? Why are you there? And he's like, there's a lot of people. It's like, I'm done with the active. He's like, no, Larissa, you're still undergoing treatment for a full year of HP is what I have to get, Herceptin and Perjeta. And I was like, no, but the hard stuff, it's done. And he's like, yes. Okay, well, just be careful. I'm like, I'm gonna hug Zion tomorrow.
All right.
So
Well,
it
you felt he should. I would have hoped your oncologist would have said, "That's awesome." Clearly, he was worried about your immune system, but
was really
but
worried.
you were, like, I'm fine. I'm good.
I did. I said I was fine. I was like, I'm fine. I promise I won't be inside a lot, which is
Right.
true. I knew I wasn't going to be indoors a lot. And I said, we're just staying here. And they had upgraded my suite to a fancy suite. I was like, did somebody tell them that I had just finished? I feel like somebody told them. So they gave me this amazing suite. There was a massage. I mean, I've never been in something more luxurious than that.
I think,
So it was
Larissa,
meant
you're
to
a
be.
high roller. You're a hidden high roller. We didn't know.
I was like, I don't even gamble. I didn't go. I actually don't even think I did not gamble once.
I went to Vegas. I got
I
upgraded.
went
and
to Vegas.
never
I
went to
didn't
the
gamble.
casino.
I went there because I wanted to hike, and it was just very humorous, like the whole thing. But being there, I mean, it was beautiful to be outside. There was beautiful pools, and you had a private pool because you're on the wing with the upgraded suite, and it was totally meant to be. It was what I needed to sort of reset. I got massage. I mean, it was
I love it. I love it. I mean, I was a big fan. I traveled during my chemo with my oncologist's full support.
it's amazing.
It was funny because my first chemo trip was to see my middle boy play baseball, his opening games of his college career. And I said to the oncologist when I started chemo, like, I really want to do this. This in March. She said, I think you'll be fine. You have chemo weekly, so you can't be gone very long. And so I tell my oldest friend, who's also my financial advisor, I'm like, yeah, we're going from California to Florida. And he's like, how are you getting there? Like, well, I'm getting on a plane. He's like, you're going to be in a plane? You're going through chemo. I said, my doctor's fine with this. And he says, I'm not. I'm like, well, yeah, okay, you don't have a vote.
No.
And he said, yes, I do. I'm buying you a first class ticket. I said, what? He's like, please let me do this. I will sleep better if you are not in coach.
That is so sweet.
Generous, unbelievably generous. And so I got to go. And it's so uplifting when and I mean, I hadn't finished, but you finished one phase of the hard stuff and now you're doing the HP. It's so empowering, uplifting. I don't know, like being
Yeah.
able to get out and do something.
Totally.
And, you went and hiked Zion. I cheered in a baseball stadium. And to everyone's point, I stayed in an Airbnb and I was
Right.
outside. Like I wasn't going to go to a, small compressed area where the air isn't filtered.
Exactly. And I was cognizant and I'm sure you did the same thing, but it's, you don't want to miss things with your kids. You don't want to miss opportunities. And I was not letting any of this derail me whatsoever. I was like, I will go on this trip. I will do both trips. I will do both. And it wasn't even, we hiked Zion and then my husband wanted us to hike in Oregon. So I kind of built up my tolerance by the time
Okay.
4 hikes in to get to the one. And the first hike he had us go like, I think it was 6 miles. It was so long. And I was done that night. I was like, I
Yeah.
didn't sleep for a bit.
Yeah, Larissa,
But it felt good.
my big was 6 weeks after my reconstructive surgery and bilateral mastectomy, I went and traveled.
Mm.
And 8 weeks after, the travel took me to France and we were going to bike through vineyards.
That's
And
amazing.
right, so I say to my plastic surgeon, like, so I have this plan. I can change it. I have this plan, but I had a deep. So I had
Okay.
abdominal surgery as well as
And
a
this.
bilateral,
Ooh,
right?
wow.
So drains are out. And I'm a athletic person. And I said to her, like, can I bike if I e-bike? And she
Okay.
looks at me and says, will you use the e-bike part? Like, absolutely, I have no interest in sutures opening. You have done
Right.
beautiful artistic work and I am
True.
not going to mess it up.
Yes.
And she said, I love it. Go e-bike. Right? And then I'll give
Yes.
you this one. And then I want to ask you another question. So when you have, what kind of reconstruction did you have?
So I did not have any reconstruction, which,
Okay.
yeah,
So did you have a mastectomy or
I had
lumpectomy?
a lumpectomy,
Okay.
left side,
Okay.
and
Yeah, axilla, all the lymph
yep,
node
yep.
things. Yeah. Okay. So I had this 14-hour big surgery, right? Bilateral, what? It's fine. It's good. I'm very pleased with the results. And they tell you you can't do anything strenuous for 3 months. So I was e-biking at 8 weeks, but 3 months. So on August 6th, my surgery was May 4th. I see my plastic surgeon, Dr. Marissa Piper, and she clears me. And I said, "Am I cleared?" She said, "You are cleared. You can do anything." I said, "Anything." She says, "Anything." Like, okay, I'm thinking back bend yoga, right?
Right.
And so 3 days later, I'm on the lake and I'm wakeboarding. And they take a video because this is like a victory lap, like Zion,
Yeah.
like hiking
Yeah.
6 miles, right? I am wakeboarding 3 months after my deep flap and DMX, right? And I send it to her. And the nurse is right back. "This is dangerous. You shouldn't be doing this. You just had major surgery." And I said, "I was cleared on it 3 days ago." My surgeon came on the my chart, and her only expression, get this, "Woohoo!" Right? So
Yeah.
I love it. I love that you lived. I love that we're sharing with people. You hiked, you did 2 trips. I'm e-biking and wakeboarding. Like, we're alive.
Yeah.
And I'll bet you're doing back bends in yoga.
Yep. I'm back 100% with all the things. So yeah.
Love it. Okay. So many people, they feel powerless after diagnosis. And you, I mean, you were telling me earlier, migrated from a corporate law career to being a professor of yoga and philosophy. But when with cancer, a lot of us feel like our body actually betrayed us. How did you handle that? And what was the mental shift you made to flip that script?
I was very angry. I will not necessarily, obviously the diagnosis itself, but I was actually angry at my body because I mean, if you live a lifestyle, right, you're doing yoga. I had went organic and all of that like years ago that I was like, I am great. So when this happened, I was very mad, very angry. And then I was just like, okay, I could continue to be angry, which is not going to actually help me.
Mhm.
Or I could figure out a way to make peace with the fact that this is happening. And the timing of it was also difficult because a month prior, my dad was also diagnosed with prostate cancer.
Mm. Double
So
hit.
it has that diagnosis and then mine in so close proximity for my family was just very overwhelming. But then I was looking at it as, okay, now we're going to go through this together. He and I will be going through different treatments. At the time, we weren't sure what they were going to be, but we were like, listen, we got that. We're going to get through this together. And I really wanted, especially having the kids, I really wanted my boys to know, like, am I allowed to say a bad word?
You can say bad words. The name of the podcast is Kicking Cancer's
Okay,
Ass.
right. I'm sorry. I
We
just
invite cursing. Please. Fuck cancer.
okay.
Your turn.
I wanted them to realize that in life shit happens and
Right.
that we can't always have everything just so. And you can do all the things to make things appear to be or like do all the things right, so to speak, and things will still go wrong. And so in my mind, I want them to see like when that happens, how I responded to it instead of reacted. Yes, I was initially angry and definitely had some tears, especially when I was telling them. I feel like then I was like, but listen, I'm going to get through this, and we're going to look back on this as something that made our family stronger, that made us come together and realize that, when we're down, we need support of our community and one another. And I'm going to look at this as a learning experience for me to be able to figure out how to get through something that's very difficult that I would not have chosen for myself, but
Good.
that happens nonetheless. And, teaching yoga and mindfulness for all these years and practicing for like 30 years, I feel like that immediately that switch was easier for me to switch because I had to do it throughout my practice. Otherwise, I'd be like preaching, but not practicing what I'm actually teaching every single day.
Mhm.
And so for that, it was just like, all right, this is where we're at. I could accept it. It took me like a little bit longer, but quicker than I think people were expecting because of everything that and how it went down. And then I was just like, this is what's happening. And I was very honest. I was very honest. I still share what's happening. I didn't keep anything from anyone. I was very public about it. I went public with the diagnosis, even on like socials and everything. And I just shared it even with the places I worked. I was worried about that. I mean, I do a very public facing job, and I was like, are they still going to want to do things with me if they know what's going on? Or are they going to treat me differently because of what's going on? No one treated me differently. They responded to how I was responding, which was, we're moving forward with this. Like, this is where we're at. And I had taken a position as a director of teacher trainings at a local studio, the Yogalo, which was wonderful. And I've been working like to get up to that point, right? Director of the trainings. This is great. And the day before the training started is when I got the diagnosis.
Of course.
And I was just like, oh my goodness. Like, I could either quit now, which is not in my personality. Quitting is not part of it. Even to quit my legal job to switch gears took me like 5 years to finally like, I don't like quitting, but I looked at it as a pivot. I
Uh-huh.
pivoted. It wasn't that I was quitting, I just was shifting.
Mhm.
And it was the same thing with this. I was like, I could really be living my yoga and explaining to students, like, this is what's going on. I'm going to be here with you. I might not have any hair in like 3 or 4 weeks, but listen, this is where we're at, and I'm going to see you through this. I'm with you. I got you. We have each other. And it was amazing because the entire length of that teacher training was the entire length of my chemotherapy. They
Perfect.
basically graduated when I was done, and they started when I began. So it was almost like birthing teachers, but also birthing a new person coming out on the other side of where
Mhm.
all this went.
I love that. I love that. It happened that I started getting trained as a positive intelligence coach right as I got diagnosed. So, and like you, I tend to be about you control the story. No one
Yep.
chooses cancer, but
Nope.
you control the story. And I also have 3 kids, and, you know, telling them was awful.
Yeah.
But I had been them. I was 13 when my mother was diagnosed. So I
Uh-huh.
had been them.
Got to.
And so I could say with confidence, like you did, we are going to get through this. We are going to be stronger. You are going to be okay. And everything you're feeling, whatever guilt, whatever fear, whatever self concern
Yep.
is normal. And I invite it. Talk
Yep.
about it. Let's do this. But I didn't dwell in the valley of why me. Of course, I have a gene, so I was like, I kind of know it doesn't matter
Right.
how I live. But none of us cause our cancer. And if we knew there was one thing or some lifestyle that would guarantee we don't get cancer, I think a lot of us would try it. But like,
Yes.
okay, like we don't, because it's like cells run amok and the immune system not detecting or killing the cells run
Right.
amok. I was
Yep.
talking with somebody about, these blood tests, which are really awesome. And a
Yeah.
blood test can show that you have a low level of cancer, but it can take 18 months to find out, did it
Beauty.
show up anywhere? And it may disappear because that's what's supposed to happen. But I love that you were open. I love that you took your teachers on the journey. I took the other coaches on the journey because I think we're both very committed to, let's defang the fear of this particular monster. You can get through this.
Yep.
Most of us do.
Yep.
So you talked to me about finding power through purpose, by teaching, by parenting, by running. What do you think the impact of teaching those yoga students, those teachers, and everything else you were doing was helping you heal mentally and physically as you went through this and afterwards?
So I think that it reminded it just reminds us of our, we're mortals, we're human. Like, we're not gonna be here forever. And if we constantly push up against that, we call that, it depends on which lineage you're looking at, but like some call it like dukkha, whether it's from Buddhism or different suffering and detachment, whether you're looking at it from more of a yogic angle. But I feel like the detachment part of it was like, okay, this is happening. I'm getting through this. I need to be able to talk about it, to share it, and to then just move past it. Like, just be like, it is a part of me. I now have this part of me. I have come out on the other side, I didn't want it to define me. And that was where the purpose, the finding the power through the purpose for me was the most important thing. Because if I let it define me, then I think it would have been so much harder to have seen the end of this. And
Mhm.
again, I mean, we as individuals who have survived cancer, so to speak, I feel like there's always that lingering kind of question in the back of your mind, like, I mean, it could come back. Like, so
Sure.
those are the things where it's like I could focus on that, the possibility of it coming back, or I could use, yes, this happened. I went through this. I lost my hair. I loved my hair, but all of that's temporary. Like all of this is all temporary. So I was like, let's look at it as what can we celebrate in the now? What can we celebrate right now? I can celebrate that modern medicine is amazing, like amazing. And I'm beyond grateful because if I had this diagnosis, I was HER2 positive. That was it. That was the only part of my diagnosis and the only hormone. 20 years ago, there was nothing to treat this. So I could have dwelled in the fact that I had to go through chemotherapy or, oh my goodness, this is a life-saving treatment that didn't even exist. That if I had this, that would have been essentially a sentence to not be here anymore.
Mhm.
So I was like, wait, this is amazing. Let me focus on like the the good stuff. So I was looking at it as, okay, I can flip things and make them into I have an amazing team. I was privileged enough to get multiple opinions from individuals at Memorial Sloan Kettering and individuals at Fox Chase and have them approve of what the hospital system where I am, LVHN, which is very progressive in the area where I am. Like all of those things are amazing and miraculous. I have a great team. I had amazing nurse practitioners. I was privileged enough to have health insurance. Like these are all things that I was just like, okay, I really should be focusing on like that part of it because there are folks who cannot have the treatments, who do not have a good like and so that to me is like I'm privileged in that. I'm grateful for that and I could not be more thankful for that. That's sort of how I
So
did.
I love that. I did the same. I love that. And I'm sure there were moments that you were angry, sad. How did you face those? Because I believe that which you resist persists, and
Right.
you clearly aren't living in an angry
No.
world. So there's some way that you must have acknowledged them. And how did you process that? So other people who might be feeling angry or betrayed or sad or guilty, what do you suggest?
So what I did and what I relied upon was so interesting because I have been a writer my entire life, writing different things. I wrote a children's book, I wrote poetry, I have all these little like tidbits of things. And when you have 3 kids and you're working full time and you have all these part-time gigs, you don't have time to really nurture that. So I relied back on that. I went back to my journaling. That's where I process things. I would write things down. I would write how I was feeling. And it really helped me frame things to be like getting all my emotions and my feelings out on paper, having those emotions, not dismissing them whenever they would come up. And they would come up, it was like little things that would get to me. Like I wasn't able to see any one of my middle son's wrestling matches, okay, because it was in the height of a flu, COVID, cold, like all that season, as well as it was active chemotherapy. And they were like, you really shouldn't be around a lot of people, as we just discussed. But he made it to the state finals in Harrisburg here in Pennsylvania. And I was just like, no, no. Because I was in tears that day. I was like, no, I'm going. I'm a week. This is a week and a half out from my last treatment. And I was like, you know what? I'm almost done, but I am going to go there. I'm going to go there. I'm literally just going to drive in, see him, and then drive home with my other 2 kids. That's what I did. I was so grateful that I did that because I was like, that was when it was going to get to me. I was like, no, no, I don't want to miss things that are important to me. But my livelihood, I have an entire business that teaches both adults but kids, like daycare kids and elementary school kids. And I had to build a team around that. So those folks supported me that entire time. So when I would have those moments of, whoa, woe is me, which I have had several of those, I was just like, wow, you know, this is something that I probably would not have done. I would not have probably built a team. I would have just kept doing things myself. Very like rugged individualism. And now I'm like, this is so freeing. And I can accept more jobs because I have multiple people that can do these things. Um, with my writing, I would just write all of that. I still have my journal. I'm looking at it right now. It's like literally here. Here we go. Look, with things sticking out of it. I mean, there's so, but this helped me process things. It helped me get through things. We have a really amazing, it's called Cancer Supporting Community here in the Lehigh Valley that offers you free therapy if you're undergoing treatment.
Mm-hmm.
So seeking out professionals, also very helpful for me
Yeah,
because
definitely.
there's only so much that, I by nature, I'm not like I cry, like I have that, but I'm not like, that isn't my go-to emotion. My go-to emotion is usually anger.
Mm-hmm.
Just that's how I process things. So when I got to that angry point, I was like, wait, this is actually, anger is really masking fear. So what like what is underneath there? Let's unpack that a little bit. And then when I was writing things down, I was just like, really, it's the fear of not being here. It's a fear of not being here for my children. It's a fear of not being able to see them grow up and all the things that I had planned with my husband and like things like that. So I emoted when I needed to. I wrote things down when I needed to, and I sought help when I needed to.
That's fabulous. Great advice. I did the same. The journal that I kept, I actually used CaringBridge and it was public.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, so
Right.
that's very smart. I love that.
And
Yeah.
but I had two reasons. One, processing,
Yeah.
right? But two, again, I was 13 when the first time, and I've seen this movie 12 times. It's really exhausting
It is.
for
You have to repeat yourself.
to tell people the same stuff. And they don't want to ask us, they ask our
Right.
husbands or our kids. So because I left this out. I was supposed to have a prophylactic bilateral mastectomy and reconstruction on January 10th, and I was diagnosed on January 9th. So a lot of people knew I was having this surgery because I had set up the support network, right?
Wow. Okay.
So I had
Yeah.
to tell people, a lot of people, the day I was diagnosed because I didn't want them to call the next day to ask how surgery was going.
Yes.
So I used CaringBridge, and it was a great outlet.
It is.
And I told people, I will post what's going on. You'll know. So please don't ask my family. Go to the CaringBridge or don't. That's okay. I don't check. I'm not, in the business of, do you care that much about me? I don't care.
Totally. No,
Right.
yeah.
I'm putting it there. It was so cathartic. But like you, I found a psycho-oncologist because there are moments,
That's a
yeah,
good.
that's a specialty. I'm sure your Lehigh Valley group has these people, but it's a specialty within psychology, a psycho-oncologist. And
That's cool.
there are things I wanted to express,
Mm-hmm.
and I wanted to express them as rawly as I felt them
Mm.
without worrying about how the person I was talking to might feel. Right. I
Right.
didn't want to say it to my husband and have him reassure me. No, honey,
Right.
I'll still find you sexually attractive. Like, fine, we can have that
Yeah, this is a
conversation.
big
Like,
one.
that's fine. But I want to talk about what it means to lose my breasts,
Mm-hmm.
right? Something that I knew I was going to do. I was about to do it prophylactically, but
Yeah.
now I had to. I
Right.
want to talk about how anxious I was that, this group needs my pathology and it's trapped in this group. And is that going to hold everything up? And what if I can't get the chemo started? And, oh God, I was spun up around. I
I would
was like a
I
top.
I'm laughing because I literally was that exact same way, but I was just like, I will was I was like, no, no, I will be starting on this date
Oh my
and you
God.
all can figure it out.
We are so I was diagnosed by one hospital and I was treated by another, and they
Gotcha.
needed to move.
Move.
And, my oncology office had said, the new oncologist said, okay, we'll reach out to Peninsula Hospital and we'll get the slides and, it'll all be fine. You get your port, it'll all be fine. And I said, are you sure I can't help? I'm actually really good at making things happen. And like, no, that usually doesn't help. Week later, Larissa, they call me and they're like, could you help? I'm like,
There we go.
okay. So they call me at like 3:30. I'm on with this lab, this pathology group. Like, I am such a pest. And I finally get someone on the phone and I'm explaining, and they need this. They won't start my chemo without it. I have to get it there. It hasn't gotten there. And they're like, okay, well, the pathology's left for the day. I'm like, what time do they come in? They're like 8. I said, could you put my slide, the release for my slides on their desk for 8 a.m.? They're like, I said, because I'm coming there.
Right.
And they said, what? I said, I'm going to be at your hospital and I'm not going to leave without these slides. And she's like, okay. And she was great. The next day, I gave them till 10. I show up. The pathology offices, Larissa, they're not used to seeing patients. There's no patient waiting room at pathology. So the door's locked, but there's a janitor walking by. I was like, could you let me in? And he did. And so I'm looking at the woman I'd been speaking to. I said, hi, I'm Joelle. I called. We talked yesterday, my slides.
Like, why are you here?
Are you doing in here? And I was like, well, I just was checking. Are they ready? Can I take them now? And she's like, you weren't kidding that you were going to be here. I'm like, no, not kidding. She's like, you can't wait in here. I'm like, well, okay. How long is it going to be?
Yeah.
She's like, I need 15 minutes. I'm like, great. I'll go upstairs. I'll be back in 15 minutes. She's like, okay. And so I get my slides. I go into my car. I do my chemo training in the car because that was a Zoom call.
Right. Yeah.
And then I drive up to UCSF. I go in. I was like, here are my pathology slides. Like, oh, it's like, please call this nurse practitioner. And they're like waiting. I said, while I wait.
Yes.
Like, oh, I'm like, she's going to react. She's going to come get the slides right now. And, so in under, let's see, 18 hours.
Yeah.
The problem was fixed.
I mean,
that night, we were talking about the psycho-oncologist. After I'd called the pathology lab, but I didn't have my slides yet, and I didn't have a firm commitment that I would. Yeah. I mean, I was spiraling. Yeah. And I called my psycho-oncologist. I texted her. I said, I know it's 8 o'clock at night. Can you talk? And she's like, I'm putting my baby down. I will call you back at 8:30. And she did. And I mean, we talked once. Like, we didn't have a relationship. I hadn't started chemo yet.
Yeah.
And I said, Sadie, I'm going to lose my mind. Like, I tell her the story. I tell her what's going on. The whole thing. And she says, have you done everything in your control? I said, yeah. She says, you have. And then some. Yeah. Is there anything more you can do tonight? I said, no. She said, so that's it. You've done everything you can. There's nothing more you can do. Say that. And I did. And it was like the stress went.
Right. Right.
So long story short, glad you got help. I think journaling, Caring Bridge, a psycho-oncologist or a social worker, but there was nothing. My husband, my friends, my sister who's a survivor, my mother who's a survivor, nobody was going to talk me off that cliff without getting themselves upset as well.
Right. And it's actually very interesting how you were talking about Caring Bridge. So I treated social media as like my Caring Bridge, where I would update people that way. And it was so liberating because of exactly what you're saying. You say it once. Right. Aside from like my immediate family who was getting like the actual updates, but like the world would be able to look and travel along the journey with me from the time of diagnosis all the way till like I'm going to post next week when I go back to sit in my chair for my infusions. Just so that you don't have to constantly, I feel like unless I was I didn't want to always be talking about it because I feel like the more that I was like, no, I don't want to like go there with every single, and I don't want to have it be the topic of a conversation when I'm talking to somebody random when I run into like Target to be like, oh, yeah, like, no. And they'll be like, we read, we're rooting for you. Cool. Great. That's good talk. See you later. Happy shopping. Like, it was just like, that's how I wanted it to be.
You were shaping it.
Exactly. I was like, and to what you just said, have you done everything that you could that you can control, right? That this is what this is the area of control, and this is what stuff that you can't control. Yes, this is what I'm controlling the narrative. I'm controlling if people have questions, they can come to me. I even put that. And it was amazing to see how many people had been on this similar path that never talked about it or disclosed a very different way of processing. Like I was like, whoosh, it's out there. A lot of friends had gone through this, the whole thing. I mean, all of it, like mastectomy, all of it. And they were just like, hey, I went through this. Hey, I was like, what? And like, it was shocking. Like, and they're like, you're so brave to share. I'm like, I can't imagine. I don't imagine. any other world that I wouldn't. Like I'm very open like that, like here.
No, I think it's healthy. My parents, it was 1983.
Right.
It was when people said cancer, like it was contagious.
Yes.
So, you know, some people knew, but they were isolated. Then when my sister went through it, she was 29
Mm.
in 2003, she told people, and people showed up for her in a way that was uplifting. So when in 2023 it was my turn, I said, I like that version. And you don't know who's going to show up and who's not. And I didn't have any expectations, right? I
Yeah.
just knew if I put it out to the universe, I show up for people. There was a probability people would show up for me. And man, Larissa, they
Yeah.
did, to the point where I started, people would do things or I'd suggest something. It became this stacking of what I call happiness tripwires. Just
Mhm.
things kept coming at me that
Yeah.
it like my best friend from high school, he'd send me emojis of kisses every time I had an infusion. That was it. It wasn't some big extensive thing.
Right.
It was so
Simple but
right.
powerful, right?
Simple, free, just a reminder. People are amazing. So I
Yeah.
told my kids, tell everyone. But I did tell my one of my kids was still in high school, and I said to her, you know, tell people. But I know high schoolers because I was 15. My mother had a recurrence when I was 15, so I knew kind of how high schoolers aren't well equipped. I reached out to her advocacy teacher and I said, by the way, this just happened. This is what's going on. Would you do me a favor and tell all her teachers so she doesn't have to?
Agreed. Yep.
And that was really the only smoothing. Although when she went to her therapist, I did say to him, hey, here's a pile of steaming shit. This is what just happened. Have fun.
Yeah.
So, all right. You said we were just talking about these uplifting moments. You found collateral blessings in this journey. Can you tell me about one that shifted how you see your life, your limits, your
I
purpose?
think the collateral blessings are very similar to what you just shared, meaning I was so overwhelmed by my community. People that, to your point, like somebody from high school, like a best friend, like all these people, some people I had barely even spoken to over the years, literally reaching out and telling you like the impact that you had on their lives, which was
Awesome.
wild. I was like, "What?" Like, "Oh my goodness, that's so lovely." Like it just went to it showed you the value of a life and like a life well lived to the point where I was like, "Wow, you know what? I feel like I've done a lot." So if this doesn't go the way that I would like it to go, I'm actually like, damn, I did pretty good. Like, I feel good about my journey and like where I was. And so the collateral blessings for me was the reminder that I could stop kind of striving. I have this tendency to do that for more, not necessarily like more. I don't want to accumulate things. I meant like I always had, like, little goals I would set for myself. And I was just like, "No, like, just be content with where you're at in this moment. You don't have to do anything else other than to be you, and maybe this is exactly where you are supposed to be at this moment in your life." And just, like, pause, appreciate, and count those collateral blessings for what they are, and just really notice. And I think I was just filled with a tremendous sense of gratitude
Yeah.
over that time to the point where, like, the gratitude would bring me to, like, happy tears, which
Yes.
is something that I just was so even just a couple weeks ago when it was Thanksgiving, I literally went live and was just like, "Thank you," like, to my virtual community, which
Mhm.
never needed to do anything. Thank you to my physical community, the people who showed up and brought food to my family, who brought gifts, who did those little, like, little tiny things where I have a friend that would just send me positive messages on, like,
Mhm.
once a week.
Mhm.
I would look at it and it would make me smile, and I was like, "Yes, this is amazing." But, like, those are the things that really helped me, and it was also a reminder for me that, those difficult moments, those difficult roads can lead to collateral blessings that might be beautiful that we didn't even anticipate.
I tell people, and it's why I wrote my book, Crushing the Cancer Curveball, that my cancer year was the happiest year of my life. And if you are the caregiver, the friend, and you buy the book, chapter 16 is literally a list of here's all the ways you can support someone going through cancer with these, what I call happiness tripwires. And Larissa, happiness tripwires, your collateral blessings, and the fact that you pause to appreciate them, that's, you get a double because you get it when it happened and then you get it when you remember. It's like a double dose.
Yeah.
It releases serotonin, oxytocin, and dopamine. So you feel good, you feel connected, and it boosts your immune system. So, like, the way you can really help somebody going through cancer is shower them in happiness tripwires, make them know they matter, give them the gift of a smile, and
Hmm.
you're actually helping build up their immune system. How awesome! How awesome is the universe?
That is very awesome. And I feel like the more that we can lean into that sort of it is a mindset shift. If we can shift into that mindset shift, which is not always easy, and I don't wanna make anyone feel like if they're not in that space that they're not where they should be, but my hope for them is at some point, they could step back and look at it and be like, "Yes, it was shitty, and it was not what I wanted, but, like, look at where look at where you are now in this moment and see how it shifted things in a way that you might not have anticipated." So,
And be open to that possibility,
yeah.
right? Because look, you can rail against having cancer. I mean, when my sister was diagnosed the first time, she was 29, 3 months away from her wedding, just finished an Ironman, just extraordinary. And she had every right to be furious. And she was, right? And her wedding was a celebration of love and joy. And, she wanted it to be a cancer-free weekend, but everybody wore wigs. We all wore wigs because we're with her. Her wig was stunning. The
Yeah.
rest of us probably looked a little bit weird. But, you have to find a way to let some joy creep in. It's like a crack in a wall.
It
Just
really is.
let the light in a little bit. And that doesn't make it okay that you got cancer. It's neither okay or not okay. It is and is. It
Yeah.
doesn't want your permission. It don't care.
Yeah.
All right.
It is.
It is. It's an is. And whenever you get to the place where you can look at it as this happened to me, it isn't who I am. And what do I want next? That's liberating.
Yeah. It really is.
So, all right, I want to do a lightning round. We're going to do 5 questions. First thing that comes to your mind. Ready?
Go.
What is one belief you had to drop to heal?
That perfection.
Okay. What is one small thing someone in treatment today can do to feel stronger?
Control the narrative.
What mantra or quote carried you through?
Just be, just breathe.
Love it. Okay, what's your post-cancer superpower?
Resilience.
Amen. When people tell me they're worried professionally, like, everyone should hire people who have been through cancer. We are the most resilient. We are good about managing our time. We are focused. Like,
Yep.
we are great people to have on teams.
Yeah, and especially if we worked during all of this,
Like
like,
you and I did.
I feel like that made you I mean, that it helped me also. It gave my attention to be somewhere other than the woe is me moments that could have potentially snowballed and allowed it to be more focused. So, yeah.
I actually told people, I had clients that I was coaching, and I said, hey, by the way, I was just diagnosed with cancer. I would like to continue working with you if you want to keep working with me. And they said, okay. I said, it helps me to do something that isn't cancer because it's the world's worst amusement park and I don't want to spend extra time there.
So true.
And they said, okay. And I said, the only thing I ask is I may need some flexibility on scheduling. I don't know how I'm going to feel,
Yep.
but I will reschedule if I have to. It turns out I didn't need to because my body basically said, that's all you got and kept going. But I even was able to keep my hair through cold capping. So like,
I was gonna say, I was gonna ask that question. Yeah,
yeah,
that's
it it,
wild.
it is. And my mother and sister both lost their hair, and it comes back. And I was not devastated by the loss idea of losing my hair, but I was in the if I can avoid it, I'd rather not.
Yeah, it's funny. I part of me, my hair hung on. They were like, you're gonna lose it within 2 weeks of starting chemotherapy. I did not lose it until 3 months in, like fully all like, and it was still patchy even then. It wasn't even just, I didn't
Yeah.
totally, and I waited till after the trip, after 2 weeks after the trip. And then I went to my stylist. I'm like, all right, we gotta like, can you just buzz and figure out? And she's like, yep, we're starting fresh. And that's when I did it. And I felt that was empowering. Going there and just
Yeah.
okay, and we're starting fresh. And I look back in pictures and I'm like, that was like something I would never have done before this. I had long hair. Like the shortest it's ever been was up to my shoulder my entire life. And I was like, oh my gosh, damn, I'm really proud of myself that I like
Yeah.
didn't lose it. And I actually do not mind any of it. I'm like, kind of rock the short hair. I always wore big earrings. This works. I was really
Definitely. It's definitely working. I was now I'm 3 years post, well, 2.5 years post the chemo, but I used to go onto podcasts or take pictures and just say to people, because I'd shake out my hair and they'd say, oh my God, like, yeah, X weeks post chemo, X months post chemo, because that's a myth. You don't
yeah,
have to lose your hair. And if you do, you can own it
yeah.
like you did, or you can try to defeat it like I did, or something in between. Like, I did have hats and wigs in the house because if it didn't work, I didn't want to walk around bald. Okay.
Yeah, it's so true. And this gave me ownership over it when I had to tell the kids that I needed chemotherapy and I would likely lose my hair because I think that that is actually the one fear. They obviously didn't want to lose me, but the 8-year-old at the time, or no, was he 9? Young, my youngest one.
Yeah.
He was 9 or 8. I can't even remember anymore. This is how much this year meant. He was very worried about the hair. And I was like, listen, mommy's gonna kick it like Moira from Schitt's Creek. We're gonna have a wall of wigs. You pick out the wig, you name the wig, mommy will rock it. I still had my entire pile of wigs over here.
Uh-huh.
They have names. They
Uh-huh.
chose the colors they wanted. They chose the length, the style. We had fun with it, and they
I
loved
love
it. They were
that.
like, "Ooh, what are you gonna wear today?" I was like, "I'm gonna kick it with." I had Paris Hilton was one very long hair. We had the Rachel because my son was like, "Mom, I want you to have your hair like Rachel from Friends." I'm like, "The fact that you
Oh,
just called that, I will gladly give you that." It was fun to see like where they went with it. My one son it is long, dark with rainbow colored bottoms. Again, something I would never do it. I was like, done. We got it.
so
That's
good.
the share. We're rocking it. The crowd favorite, I will say, was the pink. The pink, they love the pink. It was curly pink. I wore it when I rang my bell. And it was so like empowering to have pink, long, curly hair.
Hmm.
And everyone was like, that was my favorite. I was like, I kind of feel like it was mine too.
I would play with wigs for pre-cancer for when I sing on stage as a rock star. And so I have like a purple bob that's
Ooh, that's
really
so
fun.
fun.
It's really fun.
Yes.
The problem is I have so much effing hair that like I have lumps under the wig because I have massive amounts of hair.
I love that you have so much hair though. That's so good. That kept it all nice and
Yeah, I mean, thank you, Dad. That's all I can say on that. Thank you, Dad. All right, one more question, and then I'll let you go. Finish this sentence. You kick cancer's ass by.
I think I'm gonna say controlling the narrative again here.
All right,
By
I love it.
flipping it and controlling it and taking those collateral blessings. That was a longer sentence, but
That's
you
okay. You said controlling the narrative. And by the way, back on the wigs things, one of the people in my support network, also a cancer survivor, she made a joke. She's like, the wigs could be fun in the bedroom.
oh, that's why they're being kept. Oh yeah, don't think that that's why I was like, and babe, and he's like, oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Who are you having an affair with today?
I know, and they all had names. It was like, this is gonna be so fun.
I love it. And thank you for being willing to share it. I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
Larissa, you have been an amazing guest. I could talk with you for hours. I think you've shared such wisdom, such practical hope. It's been great. I wish you years and years of health, prosperity, and joy.
Thank you. I wish the same for you. Lots of health, prosperity, and joy. Thank you for having me, and thank you for being so patient with tech fun.